Yeah, I loved Issa Rae's Insecure. I was asked by Angry Bastards a few months ago if I was watching it and told him yeah. But at the time, the show was moving a bit slow for me, so I didn't want to jump into doing a video before watching it fully. I've been a fan of Issa Rae since her work on YouTube with Awkward Black Girl. I immediately saw that Insecure was making a departure from Issa's old web series, which went more for laughs. Insecure has more of a dramatic overtone, and it deconstructs the life of one young woman's navigation through career, race, and relationships. The entire cast of characters' development actually surprised me as the season went on because I think Issa wanted to give us real portrayals of not only complex people as they transformed or it seemed to flip-flop between extremes. In other words, she wanted to be very real in her portrayals. And therefore, she wanted to present no heroes or no villains, just people. Issa's character, Issa D, lives in a small apartment with her old high school or college sweetheart, Lawrence. I could be wrong about how far back they go as a couple. Issa works for a nonprofit and holds what seems to be a program manager position. Been there and done that. So what that means is that she has a position with a lot of responsibility, creativity, and room to do stuff, but has lots of room to hang herself and getting shitty pay for it to boot. Meanwhile, her boyfriend Lawrence has been struggling with unemployment for a while. I was already sighing at what I thought would be a typical negative portrayal of a black man, sitting on his ass in his underwear playing video games all day. But none of that would be true. He was looking for work. And here's where some of the tension between him and Issa begins. She thinks he's been out of work for a minute and that Lawrence should take anything that comes along. But Lawrence is a software developer who knows how to make apps. He feels that he should hold out for something more that fits his skill set. Again, we've all been there. But Lawrence, unlike most other privileged males, is not about to sink the ship to appease his ego. So he goes ahead and takes a job at Best Buy. It doesn't help matters much that secretly Issa is also becoming more resentful of Lawrence as it seems that he's too comfortable in their relationship and that he's getting lazy. Even forgetting Issa's birthday, and again, like Lawrence, I've been there and I've done that too. The one thing I have to say is that if it was an accident or just bad writing, I saw no compelling reason why Issa and Lawrence were even a damn couple. It made sense to me that at least one of them felt bored or turned off from continuing on in their relationship because I saw no real match between the two. Even in the flashbacks, it seemed that the two of them were together like they were following a mandate to be a couple. It was like they were together strictly because of their social makeup as educated black people, possibly both out of middle or lower middle class backgrounds, and that they superficially were attracted to one another. Again, we've all been there, and I've seen this in real life couples and felt I was seeing the same thing between these two characters. And if Issa and Lawrence were real people, that would be the true nature of their relationship. And if they were together based on social similarities and attraction, then it made sense to me that they would fall apart so easily. In real life, I always saw people together like this as some part of resignation to a forced coupling that marginalized people do when they feel they gotta live their lives on paper as doing everything right because they come from communities where dysfunction and broken families seems like the norm. So it's almost like some self-imposing chattel mating happening for the sake of gaining social currency rather than a real organic connection that people should have. If there was a real relationship that I saw, it was between Issa and her best friend Molly, played by Yvonne Orji. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Molly and Issa are definitely close, and you can see why, and you can see the hidden resentment they both have for one another. If you're real close friends with someone, the ugly scars are there, shared along with the camaraderie. And I gotta say that if Issa would have conceived this show to be just about Molly, I would have been good with that because besides the fact that I love watching the beautiful Yvonne Orji on screen, her character's internal conflicts were far more interesting to me than that of Issa's story. On one hand, you can see that Molly is annoyed with everyone else who seems to be settled in a committed relationship. Yet, she seems to love to play the field and not let go that she has options. Molly is quick to not settle for anyone. And I like that, and in connection to that, Issa Rae had her own character make a statement to a classroom full of kids that she's a black woman among others who feel that they shouldn't have to settle for anyone or anything or lowering their standards just to gain someone's respectability points. Molly's struggles are exemplified by Issa's statement. As a side note, previous generations, and my Generation X included, have harshly judged the Gen Yers and the Millennials for having the attitude of self-entitlement. There are worse examples of entitlement, believe me. If anything, I think the overall attitude of the Millennials reflect an anti-authoritarian stance, and that being defined as just an employed worker or an educated person and coupled with someone or anyone is the way to go. I believe that they are resisting, on a very basic instinct, conformity. But Molly wants to be loved, and I guess she wants love as well. I do get the sense that she has a cold center to her, and I feel that Issa is being really brave in writing that into Molly's character. And I hope we'll see in next season if Issa explores what that cold center is all about. Issa is definitely an asshole, but in the way a woman should be free to be one, like dudes, or, unlike the female versions of male assholes, as we see in Lena Dunham's writing. In the first episode, Issa blames Molly's tumultuous love life on what she calls Molly's broken pussy. And then right after they laugh about that, Issa gets up on stage at a club and raps about broken pussy. While no one else in the club knows that Issa's talking about her best friend, Molly fucking knows and was not amused. Now enters Daniel in more ways than one. Daniel is an ex who runs into Issa and Molly at the same club where Issa did her freestyle, and it turns out that Daniel's making it as a music producer. This is a huge plus for Issa since her fantasy career is to be a rapper anyway. We can already see that she's attracted to Daniel, and in later episodes, that attraction becomes mutual, which brings us back to Issa and Lawrence's increasing tension. By the middle of the season, Lawrence and Issa have a fight about his employment, but you can also tell it's the kind of shit people do when there is that feeling of wanting to be somewhere else or with someone else, or to just simply not be in the situation at all. So petty fights get picked, or at times, people get neglected. I won't get into the event which really fuels Issa's resentment towards Lawrence, for spoilers if you haven't seen the show yet. Later, and towards the end of the season, in a later episode, Lawrence does get the job that he wants. And on top of that, he comes to Issa's big fundraiser for the client school she works with at her job. And because part of her project included Daniel, he comes to the fundraiser as well. All at once, shit falls apart. Issa's feelings are coupled with guilt regarding her situation with Daniel, but she decides to cut all ties with him and tells Daniel this at the event, and Lawrence happens to see the two together and begins to make a connection with Issa's shitty behavior towards him as of late, and this dude that Lawrence has never seen before is speaking to Issa in an obvious intimate manner. As for Issa, it is shitty that she decides to stick with Lawrence because things are going well for him, and she feels guilty about the fact that Daniel was really just an itch that needed to be scratched. But like real life, things aren't as simple as that. Also at the same event, Issa has another big fight with Molly, where they take each other apart at the very worst aspects of their characters, past behaviors, and past fuckeries. This fight appears to be the end of that friendship. I'm not going to give away much more at this point, but if you get past the melodrama, I think Issa Rae makes a pretty good case that in being a young adult, the biggest lessons to learn is that shit isn't etched in stone. There's nothing wrong with questioning if you are in the right job, relationship, or even in the right zip code. Life is ugly, clumsy, and real between people. Like my other favorite show, Atlanta, Issa portrays black lives that challenge the old binary images we often see of black people by making them complex. Lawrence is not such a good guy or a bad guy, but a young man who thought shit was okay and took life as it came. When things got rough, he handles it the way most people who've been hurt in relationships handles things, and his character did catch flack from audience members in social media. But I like that Issa let him have his revenge without making him look like a kitten-killing villain. And she did the same with her own character. She wasn't really a ball-busting Jezebel, but just a human being trying to navigate feelings, desires, and wanting to ask, is this all there is? This is the Garage Autonomist.